Today's topic is ELN final report. And I hope after this presentation, you'll have a good feeling for what this feature does and how it can really make your life easier if you work in the research field. So this is an agenda for today. I'll cover these topics. We'll go over sort of research milestones and challenges and the benefits of using an ELN in general, and our solution to improve an ELN, and basically tell you what is an ELN final report and how can an ELN final report make your life easier. And then there will be a brief demo, which is pre-recorded, and then we'll show a question and answer. We'll have a question and answer section. Actually, let me, I wanted to turn off my camera if I can figure out how to do that, just because I want to save bandwidth. Okay, that should have turned it off, I think. Can someone confirm that my...
I confirm, Jim.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell on Zoom. Okay, so let's go get into the slides. So milestones in drug discovery, there are a series of steps usually. So you typically identify lead series, one or more, and then you quickly learn that you have to file patents or patent applications for your molecules to protect them. So in order to file a patent application, you need to capture experimental and analytical data, collate it, edit it, and put it together, and you then have to send it off to your lawyers for review. And in academia, it's very similar. Some of the topics or some of the themes for academia are a little bit different. Grad students may have to write reports for their advisor or for other purposes in the department. And at the end of the grad school, you'll have to write a thesis. So you'll have to write up your experimentals. And you would also like to write publications to publicize your research breakthroughs. And so all of these things require writing up reports. And so synthetic reports are also important in pharma and biotech. Often these days, companies work with CROs. And so you can write a report to send to your CRO to suggest synthetic routes to them based on your knowledge of internal chemistry that you may have already done. And also the CRO itself is going to provide reports back to the biotech or pharma. And once their team has established an optimized route with optimized steps, they are going to provide regular updates to the client, and at the end of the synthesis, provide an overall final report back to their customer.
The challenge is when you're using paper notebooks, it takes time to go through them all. Multiple notebooks, multiple binders, you'll have to go through, collate data, put it all together. And even if you have a notebook with most of the experimentals, you might have your analytical data stored in a different place. So these are some of the challenges. And also sometimes the experimentals are not written in a consistent way. So for a patent, you may have to rewrite them to harmonize the grammar and things like that. And all this is a time sink. It takes time away from the actual research and doing experiments. So we've just given sort of an estimated timeline here. You know, you have to gather together all your notebooks from the researchers. That could take days. Identify then from those notebooks the optimal procedures. That can take days to weeks. Gather the analytical data, more time there, another week or two. Experimental rewrite can take days or even a week. And then document cleanup and review can take more days. So again, it takes a lot of time to put together a report for a publication or a patent. And all of this is time away from the bench and time away from doing more experiments. So one solution is to use an electronic lab notebook. And so electronic lab notebooks are great because they can standardize format, they can structure workflows, and all the experiments are stored in a database, so they're easily searched. However, some ELNs are better than others. Some may not offer overall synthetic route gathering, and some ELNs have limited searching capabilities. And I'll show you how our ELN has very powerful searching capabilities, which allows us to do this final report. So as I mentioned, we have a very powerful search engine. Everything in our ELN is indexed, including attachments, which if they have live structures in them, those are also indexed. And the entire database can be searched relatively rapidly. We have, as I said, advanced searching and indexing. You can rapidly find a desired synthetic route. We also offer this feature in the ELN called Show Reaction Route, and that's even separate from the ELN final report. And experimental write-ups can be harmonized by using what we call a recipe feature. So you can have standardized experimental templates saved, and then a person can just insert them into their experiment page, and the relevant data like the starting materials, reagents, solvents, time and temperature are all automatically inserted into the procedure. And analytical data is captured at the experiment level by attaching documents directly to the ELN experiment. So you can attach PDFs, Microsoft Office documents, etc., ChemDraw files, and they're all indexed and searchable if they're live. So what is Final Report? Our Final Report module is an add-on to Scilligence ELN. It generates synthetic routes and details for a substance in a concise report. You can draft multiple routes and steps. You can refine the search based on optimal yields, or maybe you want to base it on scale. You can save and share reports once you've completed them. And you can export them as PDF or Word documents. And you'll see that in the demo. Benefits are that reports are drafted in minutes instead of days to weeks, and the report formats are standardized. And reports are professional looking. We can configure them to have your company logo or your school logo or whatever you would like to have on the front page. So with all that said, we will now show a short 5 to 6 minute video demo of the final report.
In this short video, I'd like to walk you through the steps to show you how quick and easy it is to create an ELN final report from Scilligence ELN. We begin with the home page of our ELN. From there, I'll briefly show you the workspace, which is where you'll find your notebooks. I will highlight this notebook and show you quickly that some of the experiments I have saved. And from this notebook is where the route will come from for the final report. If you go to the Explore menu, click, you'll see Final Report as an option. Click on Final Report. It now takes you to a summary table of previously created and saved final reports that I, as a user with my privileges, have access to. I will now create a new final report. You can click on the plus button, New Final Report. From there, you can enter a name. This can be changed later or left blank. Now we come to the target compound filter. This is the key step in which you will decide the target of your final report. In this case, I'm going to draw a substructure, which in this case will be a thiazole. I draw it in our proprietary JS Draw Sketcher. And you see that I'm limiting my search to one account, Scilligence account. If I wished, I could also sub-filter by project code. In addition to that, if you chose, you could search by registration ID number or sample ID number instead of by substructure. Furthermore, the search parameters can be limited by date. The default search is substructure, but you can search full search. I'm going to just choose substructure. Click OK, and now it's communicating with the server. It's finding all examples of a thiazole in this instance of the ELN in that account. You can see it finds a variety of them. The first one on the list is the one I want to use for the subject of my final report, so I will click on that box and then click on Next down on the bottom right. It now searches through the ELN backwards from that final structure, finding all synthetic routes to that target molecule. You can see now it found the routes to this target molecule on the right-hand side, also shown at the top left. And this is the sample ID of the target molecule. It's notebook 73, page 298, product 1. And it found 2 possible routes to this molecule. I will choose the one with the highest overall yield and click on that little button, and now click next. Now at the top you can see again the final route, target molecule, and now we choose the individual steps for each step of the route. I will choose in each case the step that has the highest overall yield. So for example, here we have 81.85%, 90.57%. I will choose the second one. Step number 2, there's only found one choice, so I will click that. Step number 3, again, I will choose the one with the higher yield. Step number 4, there's only one option. Step number 5, there are 2 choices, and again, one has 93% yield, one is 78, so I'll choose the higher yield. Now we just click next, and we've created our final report. Over on the top of the page, you can see each individual step with the scale, so the amount of the material, the purity of the product, the yield of that step, and the amount produced. And again, down below there's a table of all the steps. Those are the ones I just previously clicked on. And so we have our final report. All we need to do now is click on Save, and it's saved to the table that I showed you at the beginning. And once it's saved, you can also then export it as a Word document or as a PDF. And if there are any embedded documents in each of these experiments, such as analytical PDFs, they will be attached to this final report. So I'm going to click Save as Word, and you can see here what a final report looks like. Gives the logo at the top that can be configured to your company logo. Gives us title page, structure page of the subject of the report. Again, scroll down and you can see now a delivery summary, amount delivered. All these things can be edited if they weren't pulled in from the notebook. You can see the overall scheme with amounts, yields, scale, and then each step of the reaction shown here. For example, this first step, you can see the different stoichiometry tables, and this is the experimental taken directly from the notebook. So that is the final report, and so on down to the bottom. You can see that there were actual NMRs associated with this final report, and they are attached also in the Word document. LCMS as well. So that's it. That's the final report.
The ELN Final Report module is an add-on to the Scilligence ELN that greatly simplifies and expedites creation of synthetic reaction reports, thus addressing a common pain point of organic medicinal chemists and research scientists. And with that, that concludes the slides, and we'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jim. So for the audience, if there are any questions, feel free to either write them in the Q&A section. We will read them out loud and then address each question as it comes in, first come, first serve. One of the things that I wanted to bring out is, can you search more than one product in the final report? So if I have multiple final compounds, does final report have the capability of finding the routes for both final compounds?
The answer is yes. I don't have any examples to show of that, but in addition to that, you can also, if you wish, in the scheme, you can have it show if there are multiple steps of choice for one of the reaction steps. You can show 2 or more. You don't have to have just a single linear number of steps.
I think I can help answer that question as well. So basically, the final report is actually allow using advanced chem informatics tool to utilize the ELN reaction database and automatically put together synthetic routes for multiple targets. As Jim in introductions, in a typical drug discovery program, for a project, your team may work on at least one chemical series, sometime maybe 2 or 3. And at the end, you have to file a patent to protect your intellectual property. So the substructure query options, you can actually put in a scaffold of the chemical series that you're working on. And then we'll bring in all the analog that containing that scaffold. Then you can pick and choose actually multiple target to write into reports. So each target will have a report generated. Then you go through the process that what Jim has shown. You can pick multiple target. It will give you all the route to each target, and you pick the best conditions or the preferred condition to be included in your report. So in that case, you don't have to do one molecule at a time writing your report. You can actually have multiple analog in the same chemical series, going through the same process, doing in one workflow.
All right. I see thank you, Jim and Jimbo, for the answer. I see a few more questions in the Q&A section. I'll read off the first one and allow you guys to answer. The first question is there some way that the database knows that an intermediate belongs to a final product? Is this automatic, or must it be marked by the user when setting up the experiment?
That's a good question. No, when you're setting up your experiments, you don't have to indicate in any way. And as a matter of fact, you may not realize until much later that your synthetic scheme for a final product will utilize that intermediate. So our indexing engine just searches by structure, so it goes backwards that way. It doesn't look for certain keywords like name of target molecule or anything like that. Jimbo, would you want to elaborate on that, or is that sounds about right?
That's exactly the case, especially when you some of the intermediate can be generated by your process chemist. And if you are a medicinal chemist, actually your process chemist maybe have a better yield for the same intermediate. So you don't really have to know, all the experiment, and who actually, synthesize those intermediate. That's the beauty of the advanced informatics behind the final report feature, is to let the chem informatic to take care of route searching for you, and also identify all the conditions for each reaction step in those routes as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in my demo, I may have indicated that my final report I was creating was all from my own notebook. But if you have the correct privileges in the ELN to view other projects or view other accounts, you can pull together a final report that is, every step could be from a different scientist. It will find everything. Let's see.
Thank you, gentlemen. The second question is, does the final report include the audit trail for the component reactions?
Another good question. We typically don't have that turned on, but we can turn that on for our final report, and also in general for our PDF exports for just even a single experiment. You can turn on so that the audit report will be attached.
Question for everybody else is, if you enter a library of simple reactions, for example, from an organic chemistry textbook, can the engine piece them together to generate a new scheme, sort of a preliminary report?
Okay, let me see if I understand. If you enter them in from a textbook and then tell the final report the target molecule, it can use those as sources for the steps. I'm not sure if you're asking, can it go in the forward direction and sort of take reactions and propose some final product? That's not possible. I'm not sure if that answers the question. If not, please type it in that box again. Maybe I'm not answering the question.
Yeah, and maybe I can chime in on
Sure.
addressing this question as well. So basically, if you are thinking about actually, depends on, what organization you work for. I'm just giving example. I'm just going to use a counter research organization as an example. So this tool is not only for writing report per se. This tool is, if you can think about it, this is actually a knowledge mining tool. Let's say that if you work at a CRO organizations, and a lot of time you receive quotation requests from your biotech and pharma clients, and they typically just provide you, a target structure, a few target structures. Now it will be up to your team to actually do the route searching for similar compound or exactly the same compound. Okay. And if your organization have multiple years of experience doing, synthesis, you may have a very rich knowledge base, and some of the close analog may have been synthesized by your team previously, even those you personally may not know they exist. So this tool, the so-called final report tool, will become a knowledge mining tool of your own ELN database, and will pull together all the possible synthetic route to similar analog or the exact same target compound for you. So now you put you in a better position to do the risk assessment. Basically, how much you should quote those target molecule for, and how long the timeline should be. So you're using a data-driven decision making, to provide the quotations and provide a proposal to your client. So I'm just using that as a use case. A different use of the final report tool is a knowledge mining tool. And you can think about those in CAS and Elsevier type of tool as well, because that is also similar, but it's actually mined through the literature, mined through the publications. But in this case, it's actually mined through a actual experiment in your ELN database, in your internal ELN database, not mining the SciFinder data or the Elsevier reaccess data. Hope that answers your questions. Yeah, but but final report, this tool is not doing forward reaction predictions. That's not what this tool is designed for.
We've received an additional question through the chat, and that is, what are the costs associated with the final report add-on for ELN?
I'm going to turn that one to Jimbo.
Okay, yeah, I think the cost is a fraction of ELN license cost. It's really, in terms of license cost, we have a list price. I think the best way to provide you cost information is really, to provide you official quotations. And the cost will depends on, we provide a variety of discount, depends on, a variety of a couple of factors. The number of users, would like to use these features, and how soon you can make a decision. So I think, cost, the way I look at it is first of all, I think you have to decide whether this tool will be helpful to your team. And then we can work out a mutually acceptable cost arrangement. Yeah, I typically I don't see cost as the only barrier. I think it should be the lowest barrier. Yeah. There's another question about how easy it is to deploy this add-on. So if you are currently using Scilligence ELN, I think it's very straightforward to add this feature to your systems. So when we do deployment, we typically set up, at least 2 instances for, for our customers, for our client. One will be the test environment, and the other one will be the production environment. And some of the large pharma biotech also have a 3rd instance, which is development environment. So if your team really want to test the water of this advanced feature, then you just reach out to our support team. And then we can actually update your test environment to include this add-on for your test users. And then you can, try it out. And the concept, as you can see at this webinar, is really straightforward. For a synthetic chemist, after you have seen this webinar, you really don't need any training. Just put in the structure of interest, do a query, the system do the job for you. You just have a few decision-making steps. Choose your route, select your reaction conditions for each steps, and then click a save button. That's all it is. It's very, very low barrier of entry, I would say, to learn how to use this feature. But if you are currently not using Scilligence ELN, I think the best way to do that to test it out is really reach out to our team, and we can actually put together a evaluation for you. So we went through a very highly organized process to support your evaluations of both the final report feature, but also the Scilligence ELN as well.
All right. Yes, we want to thank everybody once more for attending the final report webinar. We will be recording, we have been recording this webinar, so you'll receive a copy if you have registered for the event. And as always, if you would like more information regarding ELN or other modules or ELN final report, please reach out to our website or our email address info@scilligence.com.